and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Wednesday, the 7th of June. I am Flat Cap Callum and I'm hoping you are all very, very well. All right, what have we got? Well, we've got a 3/4 stake day. 2 lucky 15s, a slightly different stake on each of them is what we've got. So 9 horses in total because there's one split leg. So £15 3/4 stake, and first race is 225 Newton Abbot. Not everyone's choice, but it is mine. So that is the first race. So I'm going to go through that. I need to do a review of Sunday, quick recap on last week generally. I need to go through the comments I put up on Monday. Didn't put any selections up for Tuesday. And then after I've done the bets, I've got a few topics for Tuesday night video. One is Bet365 extra place market. So I'm going to talk. I've got something to show you on that one for those who are interested. If you don't have 365 extra place market, you might not care. So I'm going to talk about that. And I was going to talk about. I had a question that I thought it was useful probably just to share out loud around people wanting to understand more about my sort of broader betting strategy and what stuff I do off the channel and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of going to talk a little bit about some of that sort of stuff as well, and anything else I've forgotten about that I might mention as well. Where people ask me interesting questions, I try and kind of articulate as I go extra bits and bobs. So that is the plan. So Sunday stuff. What do we have Sunday here? We had 10 on and I got 10.13 back, a 13 pence profit. So we had a go with a couple here, and no good is the answer. 245 at Nottingham, so they weren't close enough. 320, that was my sort of value horse of the day really, which then was a non-runner, so that was no help. But Pink Socks, that ran a gallant race, SP to 33s, hopefully most were on at 50s. It was a nice placed horse there at 50 to 1. And then we had a single on that one, and then I think Dettori's horse missed out by 1 place, non-runner, close but no cigar, and then that was a close second. So that was a non-runner, and with Pink Socks single on that bet, then yeah, it worked out 10 on, 10.13 back. So ended up with £5 and 2p profit for the week last week. So we're still in a nice enough position for the year, and that's £5 2p up for June. So we obviously, just as a reminder, we were down January, February, March. It was all looking pretty grim. We turned it in April. We were up April. We were up well in May, and we are currently up by £5 and 2p. So a quarter of a day's stake. So it's all in the balance for June. But you see how these things can turn. As I say all the time, it's a long-term strategy. No tipster wins every single day. Most tipsters lose on more days than they win, but not all. What I'm trying to do is win in the long term. And so with my strategy, which is a fairly high risk strategy, last year it was about even Stevens for how many weeks we won or lost. We won 9 months, we lost on 3. This year we won on 2 months, we've lost on 3. We'll see how we go. But overall, we've won more months than we've lost on the channel. We've won because this year didn't go so well. We've lost on slightly more weeks than we've won. But we are plenty up in the long term, and that is what it's about. It is about discipline. And the other thing I was going to say actually on that, which was a separate topic, but just a quick point. I didn't have a bet Tuesday. And it is really important. I haven't said this for a while. So people obviously are very aware, and people talk about gambling addiction, i.e. the addiction to trying to chase the dream, chase the win, chase the losses. It's all about trying to get that buzz or trying to get that money back. That is a well-documented thing that a lot of people unfortunately suffer with. The thing that doesn't get talked about as much, because it is less severe in the sense of it doesn't necessarily cost you money in the same way, is what I would call a betting addiction. So you don't necessarily have to be losing loads of money, but actually addicted to the process of having a bet. And even if you're a reasonably okay gambler, it can have negative consequences on your life about actually what happens on the rest of your life and how it impacts you and how focused you are how distracted you are by the addiction of actually wanting to have a bet and having an interest, even if you're not losing large swathes of money. So I always say it's very helpful every now and again to have a day like I did on Tuesday where I didn't have a bet. I didn't watch a race. I had a quick glance through all the horses on Tuesday and I thought there's nothing out there that's going to stand out to me. I haven't got the energy to go through it. I just feel like it's a healthy day to have a day off. And yeah, I know, but I'd have to check myself on a regular basis. How easy is it for me to just not have a bet? How uncomfortable do I feel going through my day without looking at a horse racing result? And yeah, some days it's hard enough to have a break, but I would recommend to people when you find opportunities, because some days you think I really want to bet and then you find loads of things that's very exciting. Some days you really want to have a bet and then you don't find anything, and then people find themselves forcing themselves to have a bet, which is no good. Some days you don't want to bet and then you find some interesting things, and that's difficult. Some days you don't want to bet, like Tuesday, it didn't really feel like it, and there wasn't anything particularly stand out when I glanced at it, so I was like, cool, this is a nice win-win. So that's a little story there. So I think we've done that. So we've done weekly stats, done monthly stats. So comments, what do we have comments? So Monday in the comments, I put up 4 horses, none of them made the frame, 2 were very close, is how I interpreted it. So we had Jackmeister Rudy went from the front and just kind of faded, really looked like it was going to hold on, and then it just like stopped. 2 of them weren't so good. Silky Sib was a bit of a sickener, if I'm really honest, right? So I don't know if anyone watched that race. It's the 5:07 Gorham Park on Monday. That's worth watching back, right? So this horse, I really liked it, right? And in the comments, I just put 4 horses out, but it was the one that I really liked, and I didn't have time to write a whole gushing comment thing about it. I really liked it. Same trainer and owner as Pink Socks from Sunday, and they also interestingly had a few runners running at Gorham Park. It's the track they use the most for putting out the horses. There was a horse in the 3:07 I liked, but I thought was more marginal, which I think finished 1 out of the placings. I don't know if maybe it got paid out for Sky, but it was 1 out of the placings for most bookies. At 50 to 1, I can't remember the name of it, but same owner, same trainer, same colours, all that jazz. Different jockey. But this Silky Sib, I just thought it was cracking. And if you watch the race, because when I watched it, the commentator literally didn't even mention the horse. It was like it wasn't even in the race. But the horse had such a poor slow start. If you actually look how many lengths it lost from the front of the field, if you literally after the get going into stride, you look how it stretched out the field, or how many lengths were lost at the start by that horse by a slow start. It was jinking. And then it was sort of hanging out the back, cut in well. The jockey did well with it. But if you actually watch, the horse was hanging its head all over the place. And there was a point where on one of the bends it went and then it jinked itself out left. And then lost another couple of strides and a couple of lengths off that one. And then it came really, really fast into the home straight and then kept on about the same pace as everything else. Now, if that horse hadn't started badly or hadn't hung out left, it would have been much, much closer. So it's well worth watching that horse next time. It clearly needs some sort of assistance in some form of headgear to stop the head flopping about to the left, or possibly try left-handed track. So it's one to keep an eye on. I'm not sure how given the run it did, it will get marked up or not, because if you actually look at the write-up for it in what the Racing Post said and versus what Sporting Life said, it was a little bit different. Sporting Life was slightly more reflective of the fact that it was detached but didn't say anything about the head. Racing Post commented on the fact that the jockey reported that the head was flopping about a bit. So Silky Sib worth looking out for. But yeah, Monday was no good basically if you follow my tips, other than the extra bet. So I put an extra bet on County Graduate in some funny race. I think it was the 220 Listowel. And what I said in the comments was I really liked it for 6th place extra market, but I'd be backing it down to the 10th place market. The horse came 10th. And so what I'm going to do is, after I've done Wednesday's bets, I'm going to go through a little bit more of a deep dive into that horse and the betting market. So I'm going to try and explain, because I don't normally, on normal days on the channel, I don't put out stuff like that. And sometimes on a Monday and Tuesday, I might put it out. And I kind of want to explain, hopefully without going too complicated, the maths behind a horse and a selection like that, and how you could place your bets. When I'm talking about it's good for 6th place market and 10th place market, how to basically work that out to the best you can. So I'll come back to that one. All right, Wednesday's bets. Let's knock into those. So I've got 2 bets. I've got one Kempton Park all-weather bet, and I've got one turf, basically on the firmer side of turf bet. So bet 1's the turf. And I've gone around the houses for these, and some of these are not the most obvious you will find out there, I think. So 225 Newton Abbot, Thahab. I've got some funny old names today, I have to say. Thahab Ifraj, 25-1. It's a 7 runner at Newton Abbot. The favourite's the right favourite. Then I think there's quite a lot of question marks over most of the field. This form, this horse, its form is pretty consistent. It tends to end each season on a bit of a duffer run, but it can run well fresh. And it just absolutely shouldn't be 25-1. I think 6th favourites, like single figures, I think it was 7 or 8, something like that. Just no way that horse is that much worse than everything else. If you think that's, even if it's 8-1, you're saying that horse is 3 times less likely to be basically beating that horse. No way. That horse is much better than that price. The question mark here is whether it come top 3. And I say top 3 because the 7 runner, 365, Sky, Coral, Betfred and Hills of the major bookies are all paying 3 places. So my advice here is on this bet is try and use one of those 5 if you can. If you can only get 2 places, I'd still place the bet, but personally, I'm using. I haven't got unfortunately, I haven't got a bunch of Sky accounts, but I'll be putting my bets down with 365 or Coral or Hills. I haven't got a live Betfred at the moment, but yeah, I think that horse is well overpriced. It should be half that, so that was worth putting in. Then the 310 Newbury, interesting horse. This in the sense of it's an unraced 2-year-old. Those who've been watching a long time, I put up quite a few of these with mixed success last year. It's the first one this season I'm putting up as an unraced 2-year-old. So you normally see me getting involved in the more experienced horse handicap races or trying to find a bad each way. This actually is a bit of a bad each way, but it wasn't what originally took my eye on the horse. So I keep an eye on these, and I just haven't found anything that really popped out. But I quite like this 310 Newbury run around Sue, 28-1. In the context of the other unraced horse, so the favourite and the first 3 in the betting, as currently are, have all run before, and none of them are superstars. Then everything else is unraced. Of the unraced ones, I think that's the best one. It's not what the betting market says, but the trainer Rod Millman puts out a reasonable amount of 2-year-olds in terms of winners and places. So I think 30% strike rate for framing this season for 2-year-olds, which is pretty decent. You look at the breeding of the horse, and it's bred to run well on firm ground. The dam won at Newbury over the course, over the distance, on good to firm ground. That's an excellent signal. What you haven't got there is any siblings to compare against, but you go into other form and you go into the dam and the dam sire and stuff, and you look around and you go, yeah, there's definitely firm ground, it's definitely sprinter. On the sire side, that is bred to be a sprinter too, so it should be a sprinter through and through. It should be a 6 furlong horse. It should be firm ground. It's got everything in its favour. If you look around in some of the history of the horse as well, it's got relatives that have run well first time out, but also won first time out. So there's quite a lot I like about that horse in there, and I just think 28-1 is a decent price for a horse that's about, I think it's 5th or 6th favourite of like 9 or 10 runners. And I think there's absolute chance that one can do well on debut. So run around Sue's in. And then we've got 740, again, not everyone's race, good quality race for an evening meeting at Ripon. Just another bottle. I just can't walk past the horse's double figures, and its Ripon form is cracking. It's not run well recently, but the Ripon form, it is a course and distance specialist really. So I'm taking that to bounce back. And then the 8 o'clock Curragh, which is the big field race, I've split the bet here. So Deo, which I think is coming into form. It ran well enough when it was trained in the UK, and in Ireland it looks like it's progressing back to a better standard. So I think that's worth taking. Interestingly, 20 to 1 at the time of doing the vid with most bookies, but 365 are 10s. And then you've got Tammany Hall at 50s, I think 365 at 25, something like that. So 365 at the time of doing the video are terrible odds. Everyone else is about the same. But that one, again, is one, well, not again, but that absolutely needs to bounce back. But form of last year says if that gets near to where the form was, that should be competitive off that mark. And 50 to 1 will look a bit silly. I've also split it from the side of the different sides of the track. So Tammany Hall's drawn high, so Deo is drawn low. So I'm kind of hedging my bets there to try and work out which one of the wings. I say that, it'll probably end up, the winners will come up the middle of the field, won't they? But yeah, trying to go one high, one low on the draw on the Curragh, because it's not necessarily the draw isn't as important at the Curragh sometimes as where the pace comes from and where the pacey horses are. So I'm splitting myself there. So 2 times 10p each way, lucky 15s. So 1, 2 and 3 with Sodao, 1, 2 and 3 with Tammany Hall. We've then got an additional 25p each way double on the afternoon pair. So I've just got those on the Thahab, Ifraj and Runaround Sue, 25p each way double. And then we'll have a 50p each way single on Tammany Hall at 50s in the last with the big price. So betting market aside, because at the time of doing this video, you wouldn't want to do it on odds, but on place terms and bog in the morning, this is what I'm saying, 365 win, because they are the same place terms, so 3, 3, 3 and 6 as Sky. Sky you won't get bog, 365 you will. Then with Coral and Betfred, you'll get bog, Betfred at the right time you will, Coral all the time. You've got 3, 3, 3 and 5. And then Hills, you'll get same place terms as Coral and Betfred, but you won't get bog on a multiple. Hopefully that is clear. Those are the best 5 bookmakers for this bet. 750 is your bet. Alright, bet 2, far more simple. 4 at Kempton, straightforward, lucky, slightly higher stake. 5.15, Sandy Paradise, 11s. That's got a decent course form, shouldn't be 11 to 1. 7.20, Ajaj. It's a 3-year-old handicap race, not my preference as you know. But I think the time that horse won over course and distance hasn't been reflected in the market. So from a ratings point of view, it doesn't look anything special. But if you actually look at the race and look at the horses that came 2nd, 3rd and 4th, they've all improved since that run against Ajaj when they came 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And so from that point of view, that's making that horse's form look better than the rating suggests it was. So we're going with Ajaj at 16s. 750 Crystal Cask. That's one of those ones where there's a lot of 3-year-olds in the race, and this is an older horse. And because it's an older horse against 3-year-olds, particularly the top 2, to be fair, the top 2 in the betting market on that race do look like either of them could be a lot better than what the market, than what the current rating is. Both those top 2 in the market look like they could be really decent. But it's definitely worth taking Crystal Cask. It's got some excellent course form. Oliver Searle's riding it. He's ridden it before and run well. £7 claimer, so 28 to 1 looks a big price, but it's a big price because the front 2 in the market look like they could be a lot better. That being said, if you're getting 4 places, which most bookies are paying on, actually not all, some bookies are paying for, then 28 is a good price. And then 8.25. Competitive race. There was nothing big I liked, but I thought it was a good race to put a 4th horse in. I was slightly split between that and a horse in the 9 o'clock, but I decided I'd like Savvy Knight as more of a solid option to finish off the bet, 8 to 1. So it's a 25p each way, lucky 15, 7.50 your bet. Sky Best, then Coral or Betfred, and then Paddy in that order. So different bookmaker advice for different bets. All right, that is those. I should also say as well, before I get to the other things, I was going to say at the top of the video, no video for Thursday selections. So I am out with Mrs. FC on Wednesday night, and I'm just not going to have enough time, and the racing on Thursday don't look anything special at all. So I'll be usual gig, if I find anything like a couple of horses, I'll put them in the comments of this video for Thursday's racing. But I'll only be doing video selections for 4 days this week. So for Wednesday's racing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there'll be no video selections for Thursday. So after this video, the next one is Friday morning. Just to be clear, I'll remind you at the end. Okay, so I was going to talk about a couple of topics. One was kind of selection dilemmas. Just to talk out loud, really, in the comments, when I'm not doing videos, it's really hard to try and get the balance right between putting a couple of horses, putting a bet out. So the way I usually do it is I put a couple of horses in there if I've got anything. If I haven't, I haven't. Monday was quite good, I thought. So I put my 4 best ones from an each way point of view, and 2 were close and 2 were not close. And yeah, it's hard because I didn't have loads of time. So what I really could have said and would have said in the video is I really, really like Stilky Sim. Wouldn't have made a difference because the horse got beaten anyway. So that's by the by. But it was the best value one of the others. And I would have said the one Must Be Cecil, I think it was. That was probably the riskier one. And so, I know most people are like, just, do what you can. But I'm just telling you, it plays on my mind that when I like to be able to articulate that is a riskier one, that is a good one. They might look like I'm saying there's 2 horses and they're basically similar prices, but one is way better than another one. And so I try and do the best to steer I can in when I do videos and stuff, but don't always have time if I'm doing stuff in the comments. So I'm just sort of slightly playing out. I'm not trying to do anything different. I'm just playing out my dilemma. And then someone asked me about my own staking plan. I just kind of want to confirm or reassure or whatever to people. There's not like a million other horses that I back that I just don't tell you. There's not like I keep a secret load. It's not, as I've said many times, I don't charge for my tips. So it's not like I've got a reason to, I've got like some sort of secret premium service where I've got a bunch of other horses that I don't give out. I give out the best horses I've got. There's some other horses I might back that I don't give out. Saturday was a good example because I'd load on Saturday, and even for the by channel standards, there was 4 I knocked off that I was going to do on the channel. 3 of them were duds, and one I think it was Marcus who put it in the comments that he liked it. I can't remember the name of the horse. It was running in the 8-10 somewhere. Maybe it was Lingfield on Saturday, and I said it was one of the horses I would have done. That one did win. I think it was 12-1. It wouldn't have made much difference for the channel because I wouldn't have had it with anything else. And I know how I would have configured the bet. So, yeah, there was that one. And I had a whole bunch of other win bets, and they were all rubbish. Every single one was rubbish. So, generally, I might be backing more horses, but I'm giving the ones on the channel that I believe have got the highest points margin. So, personally, I might back slightly more horses, but I'm basically giving you the best ones. In terms of my own rule staking plan, hopefully most people appreciate it takes an inordinate amount of time for me to do what I do on here anyway, as well as then trying to do my own personal kind of spreadsheet, keeping up to date, betting, placing, whatever. I simply do not have time or the inclination to go into far more detail about what else I'm doing in all of my bets. Because 99% of people, it would blow their mind to see the volume of bets, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out if I'm putting out a £20 day in real life, that doesn't represent what I'm actually doing personally. I think most people have figured out that I might be putting on more than £20 of my own money. Channel money, £20, my money different. I'm not going to go into the detail of all that because that's like personal finance and stuff, but also just the volume of bets, because there are plenty of people out there who punt, who put down big wedges on single horses. Now I put down reasonable amounts on single horses, but I also do multiple bets. So on a really, really busy day, I might have anything up to something like 25 Yankees with different combinations of horses placed with 8 different bookmakers. And I simply can't put all of that down because it's time sensitive, a lot of it, in terms of when I might put them on and what else I'm doing. And then it also, not everybody's got every bookmaker. So for the channel, I keep it nice and simple. Sky is the best one for using the bets that I'm putting out, so I use that for the channel, and that's how I talk about. But I'll advise other bookmakers. Personally, I'm shopping about all the time for different things, and so to actually put all of that down in a comment, it would be like War and Peace, and for most people, it'd be like, what have you done to me? And also, it's not something people could follow, because even if you were doing it like, minimum stake of 10p each ways, whatever, it would just get all a bit silly. So I'm hoping that makes sense and most people get that. But yeah, I'm giving you my best. I'm not hiding anything. And I appreciate people are like, when someone's putting out something and they're proving that it works long term, and then people get curious about, oh, what does that mean for you personally? What are you doing? I get that, but literally, I'm doing what I'm doing on the channel, and that's as far as I'm going with it, basically. Because this is supposed to be chilled and fun and casual, and I have no interest in teaching people how to be professional gamblers. And I do stuff my way, and you'll have a bunch of people who tell you they're professional gamblers, and they'll say their way is best. They'll think what I might do is complete tosh. I know profitability wise, I'm all good. But I have no interest in setting up some sort of YouTube channel or private group to try and show people how to do things, because my conscience is good for the responsibility I've got for people casually following my tips. If people were doing that with a lot more money, then I wouldn't feel comfortable, even though I do it with my own money, but that's entirely different. All right, that's that. The last thing, using the example of County Graduate, the 365 extra market. So this only applies if you've got a 365 account, and there's certain times that you find things. So obviously, as I talk about a lot on the channel, handicaps and experienced horses, that's kind of like my bread and butter. But as you will see through watching my channel for a lot of time, there are lots of other angles. So you get some people who just focus on one particular thing or two particular things, and they get really, really, really good at that. I have no issue in, I've got different angles on different things, and overall, for me, it complements. When one thing doesn't go right, something else might go well. So some people would be concerned that you kind of lose your speciality and you dilute what you do. I've got quite a few different niches of things that I might look at. County Graduate was a good example in this race on Monday at Listowel of a bit of a niche where off channel I will do stuff like that with the right bookmaking account. So for something like 365, it's got a particularly good extra place market. Comparatively, I've never found a bookmaker that does the same thing in terms of the odds that you can potentially get. So if you recall, for those of you who are reading the comments, County Graduate was in an 18 runner maiden novice, can't remember, but not very experienced horses, 18 runners, and it was 150 to 1. Now, when you look through the price of those horses, those races, what does 150 to 1 say to you? So the chances of that winning are probably about 150 to 1. That's probably about right. But I really couldn't give two hoots or a monkeys, because I'm not worrying about that side of the betting market for these horses. For the extra place market, I'm looking about place terms, because you accept that you put an each way bet on. I'm losing the win side of it, but it's still worth it for the place side of it, because the place side of it in some of these extra place markets on 365, they give you far better odds than you could find just placing a place only bet with bookmakers that do that kind of stuff, or exchanges. So for the 365 extra place market, did I think in an 18 runner maiden at 150 to 1 for 3 places, was it a good bet? No, I didn't. So, and I don't find these things all the time, but what I did is I went through, the horse sort of just slightly popped out to me, and I went through and I calculated of the 18 runners that it was 8th to 9th best. Okay, so this is, for some people this would be too much. If it's already too much, turn off. If you're interested, carry on listening. I calculated it was 8th to 9th best. So on my way of reading form, and albeit you've got to take into account a few things. A, these are inexperienced horses. B, they haven't run very many times, if at all, for some of them. C, it's kind of dodgy, low quality Irish racing where not all the horses are trying to a maximum effort, because it doesn't matter to them whether they make the frame, because they're just running in three races, made a novice, they get a handicap mark, and then they can start thinking about how to make money from the horse if they're a gambling yard. So you've got to try and work out and know which horses are going to be tried, which are not, which are trainers that will not try, but somewhere in the middle. So county graduate, for a few different reasons, ticked a few of my boxes. So I calculated that horse had a 50% chance of finishing 8th or 9th, somewhere in that bracket. That was where I put the middle spot. So I kind of ranged it, and you'll hear me talk about ranges sometimes. I'll say there's a horse and I like this horse and I think it's a 3rd to 5th horse, or a 5th to 8th horse, whatever it might be. In those races, you have to use a longer range, or I'd say so you have to, I do. So county graduate, I said it when I worked it out, I thought it's 50% chance of coming 8th or 9th. So there's a less than 50% chance of it doing better than that, but not completely bad. But equally, there's a chance then the other way that it would finish slightly further down the field. And then there's always a chance of, things happening or whatever. But roughly speaking, I calculated 50% chance of 8th or 9th finish. So what I looked at then is, if you extend 8th or 9th, a couple of ways you get to, if you get to up to 6th basically, so go 2 places that way. 10th was the maximum. So this is what I came out with. It was 150 to 1 for 3 places. Now I didn't think that was value, when I think the horse is most likely to finish 8th or 9th in the race. So 3 places is very, very unlikely. That would have been in the top 6th of the race. For the top 3rd of the race, 6 places, 125 to 1, that was value, absolute value. That was the peak point for me, where you've got a realistic chance of it coming in the places, the 6 places, at very, very good odds. And what you find sometimes in these extra place markets are the prices in extra place markets completely tail off. Sometimes they don't. So if I'm saying there's a 50% chance here, 80 to 60 to 1 here, and if you go this middle spot there is 70 to 1, and then if you go a 5th of 70 is 14 to 1, stay with me, I'm looking at a horse that I think has got a 50% chance of coming in here at 14 to 1. That's basically what I'm looking at, okay? I'm trying to keep the math simple. It's slightly more complex than that, but for simple speak here, at 70 to 1, 8.5 places, that is equivalent to 14 to 1 for a place. And I'm thinking it's got a 50-50 chance, an even money chance of coming in there. Therefore, there's a huge margin in there as far as I would read it. So what I looked at with here, and I'm going to use as illustrative as £1 bets, right? So make life easier for our maths here. If you looked at all of those markets, and you've got to stick, if you think about this, you've got to think, well, how much money is the horse worth, right? So for £1 bets, I would, if I broke that into that, so it's £12 equivalent. I'll explain why I would do that. Not my own £12, illustrative money. But if I was willing to put £12, I would have £1 each way, £1 each way, £1 each way, £1 each way, and then I would do £2 each way at that price. Not specifically just on those place terms, but at that price. So if I worked out that's £2 each way on that one, if it came 10th, then I would get a 50% profit margin. Worst case scenario is it comes 11th or worst, obviously, and you get nothing back. But for coming 10th, it was £18 back for £12 bet, because it was 50% profit margin. Then it basically escalates all the way up. So the higher up it finished, the more and more you would get back. And the sweet spot was obviously 6 places. Some people would look at it and go, well, if it came 6th, you've lost a whole bunch of value there. The point here is that was amazing value. that 10 places at 40 to 1, when I'm thinking it's an even money chance to come 8th or 9th, is basically that still was a whole bunch of value. It just wasn't as good value as that, if that makes sense. So some people get worried and think, well, you lose the value. Independently, if all I could do was a 40 to 1 bet on it coming in the first 10, it was a brilliant value bet. These just happen to have more value. I'm hoping this hasn't over-explained it. The result was the horse came 10th in this example, so it was 50% more money. If you looked, it just like it cantered in between the 9th and 10th horses, so it very nearly was 9th. And as far as the jockeys are concerned, they probably don't think it matters whether the horse comes 9th or 10th. When they're having a little chat near the line, they're just sort of cantering them in. But from my money point of view, that would have been another £12 back on top of the £18 back. That would have been £30, and therefore you'd be looking at a 150% profit. As opposed to 50% profit, and then it escalates up. Right, I've tried my best to explain that without going too complicated. I know for some it will go over your head, but I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm not saying blindly find these horses and just back them all at these places. It was because the odds 40 to 1 was cracking. The longer the day went on, the horse pretty much stayed at 150s, went 200 in places. The extra place market got shorter and shorter and shorter, but at the time when I originally looked at my bets, that's what I could do. When I put it on the channel in the comments, that was held, but these ones got slightly worse. So for some of you, it might pique an interest to start having a look around for these things, but trying to find a horse, in this case, calculating a horse that's going to be 8th or 9th, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but there's actually really, really decent margin in it. And you just need to wait for the right opportunities and be patient and accept that some of these are going to lose. So in this sort of scenario, or less than half, but will lose, but you'll get some money back. What you're waiting for is the one that slightly overperforms your expectation and slots in at 6th place. Now, if it wins, winner. You've backed it all at these prices. Yes, you haven't got 150 to 1, but that's not what we're playing for. We're playing for place market. Alright, that's made this video the longest video ever, so if you stayed to the end, fair play to you, and if you found that interesting, then please let me know. And if you didn't, I'm very sorry. Alright, I'll be back Friday morning for the next video. No video for Thursday selections. I'll be back Friday morning. Thank you very much. Bye bye.